Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2868 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom Trek is The Song of Ascent, Out of the Depths of the Cosmic Abyss. In our previous episode on this grand pilgrimage, we traveled along the rugged trails of the 10th Song of Ascent, Psalm 129. We confronted the gritty, painful reality of the survivor. We looked at the deep, bloody furrows plowed across the back of the covenant community by the wicked, the earthly agents of the rebel spiritual principalities. Yet, we celebrated the triumphant, sharp justice of Yahweh, who stepped onto the field and sliced the harnesses of oppression in half. We saw that while the haters of Zion look elevated, they are ultimately nothing more than shallow roof grass, destined to wither into worthlessness under the heat of divine judgment. Today, we take our next deliberate, introspective steps up the mountain pass toward Jerusalem. We are exploring the 11th song in this ancient collection, Psalm 130, verses 1 through 8 in the New Living Translation. Historically, this deeply moving psalm has been known in the Christian tradition by its opening Latin words, De profundis, which translate to out of the depths. The psalmist shifts our focus from the external persecution of worldly enemies to the internal suffocating weight of personal and corporate guilt. We are moving from the battlefield of physical survival into the profound spiritual depths of the human soul, learning how to cry out for mercy when we are drowning in our own brokenness. Let us step onto the trail and listen to the desperate cry for redemption. The first segment is Crying from the Chaotic Waters of Despair. Psalm 130, verses 1 and 2. Out of the depths of despair, O Lord, I call for your help. Hear my cry, O Lord. Listen to my prayer. The song opens not with a shout of triumph, but with a muffled, echoing cry from the dark. Out of the depths of despair, O Lord, I call for your help. Hear my cry, O Lord. Listen to my prayer. To truly comprehend the terrifying weight of this opening, we must view the imagery through the lens of the ancient Israelite worldview. The Hebrew word for depths is ma'amakim. In the ancient Near East, the deep, dark, and churning waters of the ocean were not viewed merely as a geographic feature. They represented primeval chaos, the cosmic abyss, and the terrifying domain of death. The sea was a playground of Leviathan, and the watery throat of Sheol, the underworld. To be in the depths meant you were drowning, completely overwhelmed by cosmic forces, suffocating in total darkness, and entirely cut off from the land of the living. But what has dragged the psalmist down into this spiritual abyss? It is not the armies of Babylon this time. It is the realization of his own sin. The depths of despair represent the suffocating environment of guilt. When you recognize how far you have fallen from the cosmic blueprint of the Creator, the psychological weight can feel like a multi-ton tidal wave pinning you to the ocean floor. Yet, look at the direction of his cry. Even from the bottom of the chaotic abyss, wrapped in the dark currents of his own failure, the pilgrim directs his voice straight upward. He calls out to the name of Yahweh. He begs, Hear my cry, O Lord. Listen to my prayer. This is an act of fierce, desperate faith. The rebel spiritual forces, the corrupt Elohim of the divine council, want the guilty soul to believe that it is permanently abandoned, that the abyss has claimed them forever. But the psalmist refuses to listen to the blackmail of the enemy. He knows that the voice of the Creator can penetrate the deepest, darkest waters of the cosmic void. When you are drowning in your own brokenness, you must use your final breath to send an SOS straight to the heavenly throne room. The second segment is The Celestial Ledger and the Scandal of Grace. Psalm 130, verses 3 and 4. Lord, if you kept a record of our sins, who, O Lord, could ever survive? But you offer forgiveness, that we might learn to fear you. Standing before the cosmic courtroom of heaven, the psalmist poses a chilling, rhetorical question that seals the fate of all humanity. Lord, if you kept a record of our sins, who, O Lord, could ever survive? In the ancient Near Eastern worldview, it was believed that the gods kept rigorous, celestial ledgers. The rebel principalities kept meticulous books, recording every infraction, every mistake, and every failure of mankind, utilizing those records to extort, torture, and condemn human beings. They demanded absolute, flawless perfection, but provided absolutely no grace. If Yahweh operated on the same system, the cosmic trial would be over before it even started. The Hebrew word for survive here means to stand. If God brought out the unedited ledger of our hidden thoughts, our compromised motives, and our outright rebellions, every single human being, every angel, and every member of the council would instantly collapse under the weight of perfect justice. No one could stand. But then, the psalmist introduces a staggering, paradigm-shifting truth that completely shatters the cosmic legal system of the enemy. Verse 4 declares, "But you offer forgiveness, that we might learn to fear you." This is a beautiful, supernatural paradox. In our human way of thinking, we assume that if a judge lets a criminal off the hook, the criminal will lose all respect for the law. We think that punishment produces fear, and forgiveness produces carelessness. But in the economy of the Most High God, the exact opposite is true. The rebel gods of the pagan nations used fear and guilt to manipulate their followers into slavery. They never offered true, total forgiveness. They only offered temporary, expensive truces. But Yahweh performs a miracle of grace. He skims off the record of our sins, completely erasing the ledger through his covenant love. When a human being, drowning at the bottom of the abyss, experiences the overwhelming, unmerited release of divine forgiveness, it triggers a profound, holy shockwave in their soul. They don't become careless. They become utterly captivated. They develop a deep, trembling, and reverential awe, the true fear of the Lord. They realize they are dealing with a king who is too good, too powerful, and too merciful to ever be trifled with. Forgiveness doesn't produce license. It produces absolute, unswerving loyalty to the true sovereign of the cosmos. The third segment is the hyper-vigilant vigil for the Son of Righteousness. Psalm 130, verses 5 and 6. I am counting on the Lord. Yes, I am counting on him. I have put my hope in his word. I long for the Lord more than centuries long for the dawn. Yes, more than centuries long for the dawn. Having received the assurance of forgiveness, the psalmist transitions into a posture of patient yet hyper-vigilant waiting. I am counting on the Lord. Yes, I am counting on him. I have put my hope in his word. The Hebrew word for counting on, or waiting, is kavah, which carries the visceral idea of twisting cords together to make a strong rope. It implies an active, muscular tension. The pilgrim is not waiting passively, like a person sitting bored in a doctor's office. He is binding his soul tightly to the promises of God, bracing himself for the long watch. He has anchored his hope exclusively to the Word, the cosmic decrees and covenant oaths of Yahweh. He illustrates the intensity of this waiting with a beautiful, hauntingly repetitive military metaphor in verse 6. I long for the Lord more than centuries long for the dawn. Yes, more than centuries long for the dawn. To understand this, we must remember our previous treks through the Songs of Ascent, specifically Psalm 127, where we learned about the vital role of the watchman guarding the city walls. Imagine a sentry stationed on the high stone battlements of Jerusalem during the ancient night watch. The darkness around him is heavy, absolute, and infested with hidden dangers. The enemy principalities and their human proxies do their most destructive work in the dark. The sentry must stay awake, his eyes straining into the blackness, listening for the slightest movement of an approaching army. His muscles are tense, his nerves are frayed, and his body is freezing cold. How does that sentry feel about the dawn? He longs for it with every fiber of his being. He knows with absolute, mathematical certainty that the sun will rise. The dawn cannot be stopped by the forces of darkness. When the first rays of light crest the eastern mountains, the shadows will vanish, the predators will flee, the ambush will be exposed, and his grueling, freezing shift will finally be over. The dawn means safety, warmth, and salvation. The psalmist is telling us, that is exactly how my soul waits for Yahweh. He is currently living in the spiritual night watch of this fallen world, surrounded by the shadows of a compromised culture. But he is waiting with absolute, unshakable confidence. He knows that the true light is on his way. The morning of God's final restoration is a historical certainty. The dark principalities can stretch out the night, but they cannot prevent the rising of the Sun of Righteousness. The believer stands on the wall, chewing on the word, waiting expectantly for the light to break across the horizon. The fourth segment is the overwhelming buyout of the captive nation. Psalm 130, verses 7 and 8. O Israel, hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is unfailing love. His redemption overflows. He himself will redeem Israel from every kind of sin. The song concludes by shifting from the intense, private experience of the individual writer to a sweeping corporate declaration over the entire nation of pilgrims. The psalmist turns to his fellow travelers and commands them, O Israel, hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is unfailing love. His redemption overflows. Here is our foundational, magnificent anchor word, once again, Hesed. The pilgrim tells the nation that they can safely risk their entire future on Yahweh because his character is defined by a loyal, stubborn, and covenant-keeping affection. And look at the nature of his rescue. His redemption overflows. The Hebrew word for redemption is pedut, which refers to a legal, commercial buyout. It is the payment of a ransom to deliver a slave from captivity. In the cosmic framework, humanity had been enslaved to the dark principalities through the legal mechanism of sin. The rebel gods held a legitimate claim of custody over a broken, guilty world. But the psalmist declares that Yahweh's redemption is not small, stingy, or calculated. It overflows. It is a massive, infinite reservoir of liberating power. The Creator does not just barely scrape together enough ransom money to buy back a few individuals. He launches a spectacular, overwhelming cosmic buyout that floods the slave market, completely breaking the financial and spiritual leverage of the adversary. The final verse seals the ultimate destiny of the covenant community with an absolute guarantee. He himself will redeem Israel from every kind of sin. Notice the supreme authority of the statement, he himself. Yahweh does not delegate this final messy rescue to a lower-ranking angel or a middle management spirit. The sovereign Lord steps down from the throne room, walks directly into the slave pens of the abyss, and executes the buyout with his own powerful hands. He redeems Israel not just from the external oppression of physical empires, but from the root cause of their exile, from every kind of sin. He cures the internal disease. By completely erasing their iniquity, he strips the rebel gods of their legal right to torment his people, ensuring that the redeemed exiles can walk out of the dark and ascend the holy mountain in perfect, unblemished freedom. The fifth segment is Rising from the Abyss with Defiant Faith. Psalm 130, verses 1 through 8, provides us with the ultimate spiritual compass for the darkest moments of our lives. It validates the terrifying reality of the abyss. The Bible never asks us to wear a fake smile when we are drowning in the depths of our own failures, anxieties, or guilt. It is entirely appropriate and deeply biblical to cry out from the bottom of the ocean, screaming for the mercy of the King when the waves of despair are crashing over our heads. But as you walk your trek today, remember that your failures have not exhausted the treasury of heaven. If the Lord kept a record of our sins, the entire universe would collapse. But he offers an overwhelming, ledger-erasing forgiveness that is designed to capture your heart, transforming your paralyzing terror into a beautiful, loyal reverence. Adopt the patient, disciplined posture of the sentry on the wall. The spiritual night watch of our modern culture can feel freezing cold and deeply dangerous. Strain your eyes into the darkness. Put your absolute hope in the unshakable word of your Creator, and watch expectantly for the dawn. Trust in the massive, overflowing Hesed of your King. He has already authorized the cosmic buyout. He is currently redeeming your life from every kind of brokenness, and he will safely guide your footsteps out of the chaotic depths all the way to the radiant, light-filled summit of his eternal kingdom. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us, and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more Daily Wisdom.